No one expected the world to end. No one thought the sky would ever turn against them or the earth beneath their feet would rise in rebellion. Yet long before the first raindrop fell, the warning had already begun, silent, invisible, and ignored. History would remember humanity's arrogance, their laughter, their pride, and finally, their fear. But before judgment came, before waters swallowed mountains, there was a man who heard what everyone else refused to listen to. In the earliest days after the descendants of Adam multiplied upon the earth, life was abundant. Cities formed. Music echoed from instruments crafted from bone and wood, and men became skilled in metalwork and architecture. The world seemed full of progress and brilliance. But beneath that shine was darkness, a terrible corruption growing in every heart. Violence stained the land. Pride ruled nations. Men became lovers of themselves, filled with envy, cruelty, and wicked intention. What began as a garden had become a battlefield of desire and rebellion. Yet in the midst of all this corruption lived Noah, a quiet man, righteous in a generation that had forgotten the Creator. He lived simply, walking in humility and reverence. While others mocked, he prayed. While others chased pleasure, he sought obedience. His children grew up different from the world around them, not perfect, but taught to fear God, to show restraint, and to watch for his voice. Then one day, the silence broke. Noah heard it first not with his ears, but with the depth of his soul, a stirring, a shift in the air, as though heaven itself had leaned close. And then the voice came. Noah. His breath caught. His knees weakened. The voice was unlike thunder or wind. It carried authority deep in the mountains and gentler than a whisper. The end of all flesh has come before me. The earth is filled with violence. I will destroy them with the earth. Noah trembled. His heart pounded with both terror and awe. For a long moment, he could not move, could not speak. He could only listen. Make for yourself an ark of gopher wood. The instructions continued. Length, width, height, 3 floors, 1 door, 1 window, pitch inside and out. Every detail exact. Every dimension intentional. Noah stood there motionless, stunned not only by the command, but by the purpose behind it. For behold, I will bring a flood of waters upon the earth. A flood. Noah had never seen rain. No one had. The earth had always been watered by mist rising from the ground. But now, the sky itself would open. But with you, I will establish my covenant. A covenant, a promise. Through Noah, life would continue. The world would not end forever. It would be reborn. Noah bowed, overwhelmed. He did not negotiate. He did not question. He simply whispered, "Yes, Lord." And so the work began. Day after day, Noah gathered wood. He cut, shaped, and sealed each plank. His sons helped him carry beams larger than anything used before in human craft. The sound of hammering echoed across fields. Birds scattered at the noise. Curious animals watched from a distance. But people came too. At first, they came out of amusement. They stood, laughing, pointing, whispering. "What is this, Noah? A tower? A monument? A madness?" Noah answered with patience. "A flood is coming. Turn from wickedness. Seek righteousness. There is still time." But time was not enough for hearts that no longer listened. Mockery deepened. Crowds grew, and the laughter turned venomous. "Rain, Noah? Water from the sky? You've lost your mind." Still he built. Years passed. Children grew into adults. The ark rose steadily, massive, impossible, undeniable. Its shadow fell like prophecy across the land. The world's corruption deepened. Violence became entertainment. Marriage was no longer sacred. Men boasted of wickedness as though it were strength. Women traded innocence for applause. Nations celebrated rebellion, honoring sin as if it were wisdom. And still Noah built. Sometimes, late at night when the world slept, Noah would look at the stars, the same stars that once watched over Eden. His eyes would sting with tears as he remembered what humanity had lost. Peace, purity, purpose, closeness with God. He wondered what Adam would say if he could see what had become of his descendants. But even in grief, Noah held on to hope. Not hope that the flood would be stopped. That was certain. But hope that his obedience mattered, even if the world despised it. Finally, After decades of preparation, the ark stood finished, towering, sealed, ready. Then the command came, gather the animals. They came not by force nor by Noah's power, but by divine summons. Lions walked beside deer without hostility. Birds flew in formation. Reptiles slithered without striking. Elephants marched with slow reverence. The sight silenced even the mockers, for no one could deny that something beyond explanation was happening. Pairs entered the ark, male and female of every kind. Noah's sons guided them gently. His wife and daughters-in-law prepared space, food, order. As the last animal stepped inside, the world fell into an eerie silence. Then Noah stood at the entrance and looked once more at the people, his neighbors, former friends, those who mocked, those who ignored. His voice broke as he spoke his final plea. Repent. Turn back. The door is still open. But sin had hardened their hearts. Some laughed. Some cursed. Some rolled their eyes and walked away. Others stood frozen, unsure, afraid, yet unwilling to humble themselves. Then Noah entered the ark, and the door, heavy, timeless, began to move. Noah did not touch it. His sons did not push it. The hand of God shut it. For 7 days, nothing happened. The ark sat silent. The sky remained clear. Birds flew freely. Children played. Farmers tended crops. The wicked grew bold again. They mocked louder than ever. 7 days, Noah, where's your flood? Inside the ark, the atmosphere was tense. Noah sat in prayer. His wife prayed beside him. His children waited, hearts trembling. Was their faith real? Had they misunderstood? Then, on the 7th day, the sky changed. It darkened. Slowly at first, like storm clouds forming on a distant horizon. But then the darkness thickened, rolling like smoke across the heavens. Thunder rumbled. Wind rose. Animals stirred nervously. Then the first raindrop fell. 1, 2, 3. Soft at first, gentle, almost comforting. Then the fountains of the deep broke apart. Water erupted from the ground, violent, unstoppable. The sky opened with a roar. Rain poured in sheets, oceans falling from above. Screams filled the air. People ran, first in confusion, then in terror. Homes flooded within minutes. Rivers overflowed. Trees snapped. Fields vanished under rising water. Men beat on the ark's walls. Noah, Noah, let us in. Women cried for their children. Families huddled on rooftops. Those who once mocked now begged. But the door did not open. It could not, for God had sealed it. Inside, Noah wept, not for himself, for them, for those who had been warned yet refused grace. The water rose higher. Villages disappeared. Cities drowned. Mountains became islands, then vanished beneath the rising flood. Animals outside the ark struggled desperately. Birds circled, searching for land that no longer existed. Human voices grew fewer, fainter, until eventually silence overtook the earth. 40 days and nights the rain fell. The earth groaned under judgment. The ark rose, carried by waters deeper than any sea before them. Inside, life continued, slow, quiet, uncertain. Noah tended the animals. His family prayed. They listened to rain, a sound that began as terror, then became rhythm, then finally memory. When the rain ceased, the world outside was unrecognizable. No cities, no laughter, no wickedness, no pride. Only endless ocean stretching beyond sight. Days passed. Weeks. Months. The ark drifted until it rested quietly upon the mountains of Ararat. Noah waited patiently. He sent out a raven. It did not return. He sent out a dove. It returned with nothing. 7 days later, he sent it again, and when it came back, it carried an olive leaf. Hope had returned to the world. When finally the earth was dry and God commanded them to leave the ark, Noah stepped out and breathed air that felt like a beginning. The ground was fresh. The world was silent, but alive. Noah built an altar and offered sacrifice, and the smoke rose into the sky, like a prayer for all who had been lost and all who would one day live. Then God spoke, not in wrath, but in promise. I will never again destroy the earth with flood. And in the sky appeared a bow of brilliant colors, a covenant, a reminder, a warning and comfort all at once. Generations would forget. Some would deny. Others would twist the truth. But the rainbow would stand as silent testimony, not merely a judgment, but a mercy. Yet even in this new beginning, something lingered, something fragile, unresolved. The flood had cleansed the earth, but not the human heart. Sin still remained. The seeds of rebellion still slept, waiting for their moment. And somewhere in the quiet of a new world, a question echoed. If the world was given a second chance, would humanity repeat its mistakes? The answer would take generations to unfold, and the story was far from over. When the floodwaters finally receded and life returned to the earth, humanity was given a second beginning. The air was crisp and clean, free from the stench of corruption. The soil was rich, ready for new seed. And the world stretched vast and unclaimed before Noah's descendants. Hills untouched, rivers unpolluted, plains waiting for footsteps. From Noah's family came nations, tribes, and languages yet unformed. His sons Shem, Ham, and Japheth planted vineyards, built shelters, and raised children who would one day populate every corner of the earth. The memory of the flood was still sharp, whispering caution into the hearts of those who had survived. For a time, humility lived among them. They honored the covenant and remembered the God who saved them. But as generations passed, the memory blurred. Children grew into adults, and adults taught their children stories dulled by distance. Some spoke of the ark with awe, others with skepticism, still others with pride, twisting the story until Noah became less a servant of God and more a hero of his own strength. And slowly, the seeds of rebellion stirred again. As the population grew, the people migrated eastward. Their journey led them to a broad plain in the land of Shinar, level ground stretching farther than sight could carry. There, the soil was smooth and perfect for building. The land felt powerful, as if destiny itself had led them there. The people settled and grew confident. "We are many," they whispered to one another. "We are strong. We will not be scattered again." It began as suggestion, then discussion, then ambition. One voice became many. Many became agreement. Agreement became purpose. And soon, purpose became pride. Then came the idea, the spark that would reshape the course of humanity. "Come," they said, "let's build a city for ourselves, and a tower reaching to the heavens." Their reasoning was not innocence or creativity. It was fear disguised as achievement. "So we will not be scattered across the earth." But hidden beneath that fear was something darker. "So we may make a name for ourselves." They gathered clay and built kilns. The work echoed day and night. Brick after brick, hardened and stacked. Their tower grew taller, broader, more impressive than any structure seen since Eden. Dust rose like smoke. Voices shouted commands. Children carried water. Women mixed mortar. Men lifted brick upon brick. It became their pride, their identity, their obsession. No one prayed. No one sought the Lord. No one asked whether this tower honored the God who spared them, or challenged him. The higher it grew, the more arrogance took root. The people began to believe they could rise to the domain of God, that heaven was a height to be climbed rather than a presence to be revered. But heaven watched. The Lord descended to observe the city and the tower that humanity was building. The structure stood tall, arrogant against the horizon, a monument not to faith, but to defiance. Their unity was powerful, but their direction was destructive. If as one people they had begun this, God said, nothing they planned will be withheld from them, not because he feared them, but because sin unchecked would consume them. So heaven acted, not with flood, not with fire, but with words. Voices began to change. A mason called for stone, and the man beside him heard nonsense. A mother called her child, and her child no longer understood. Workers shouted instructions, but the meaning fractured, twisted, vanished. Confusion rippled like a storm. Arguments erupted. Tools dropped. Progress halted. Voices clashed in chaos. Dozens of tongues where once there had been one. No one could communicate. No one could continue. What had united them now divided them. The tower stood unfinished. A monument to pride halted mid-breath. Their unity shattered. The people began to scatter, not by choice, but by necessity. Groups formed by language. drifting away from Shinar into new lands, new territories, new borders. Each group carried with them memory of a tower meant to reach the heavens and a God who stopped it. The city was named Babel, meaning confusion, because there the Lord confused the language of the whole earth. And from that place humanity spread across the world, just as God had commanded from the beginning. Noah, now old, watched from a distance as nations formed and spread. His heart felt the weight of sorrow and hope intertwined. Sorrow for the rebellion that returned so quickly. Hope for the promise God had once given. Humanity was fractured, but not forsaken. Somewhere, in a future generation yet unborn, one lineage would rise, one family set apart, not by power, pride, or ambition, but by covenant. A new story was forming, one that would lead not to the tower, but to a promise, not to human glory, but to redemption. And in the quiet distance of history's unfolding, heaven whispered a name, one the world had not yet heard. Abraham. The story was not over. It had only shifted.